Even if a bee could explain to a fly why pollen is better than shit, the fly would not understand. It's often the same way whenever trying to teach the truth of our plighted condition to many black people. Sometimes a fruit falls from a tree and rolls so far away from its roots that it's no longer a part of the tree. The hard fall and long journey profoundly changes the fruit, and there's nothing that can be done to reconnect the fruit back to the roots of the tree. Sadly, and to our detriment, it's the same way for many Africans throughout the diaspora that have been stripped of our many truths and have been indoctrinated with white mental enslaving lies. Many of us have normalized the white society's distortion of our minds, and there's nothing that can be done to restore their minds to its true, original, authentic state. If people are born ignorant to parents that are ignorant, and a society that is ignorant lives a life of ignorance, then ignorance becomes their norm. Thus, indoctrination can be called education. Tyrants can be called heroes. A false God can be called the only true God, and all lies can be called truths. Because these people never knew the truth, their minds were therefore never truly their own. These people will go from their cradles to their graves, having lived their entire lives never knowing the truth, therefore having been mentally enslaved by their enemies. Sadly, to our detriment, this is literally the hidden situation endured by many of we Africans throughout the diaspora. We have been stripped of our many truths and have been indoctrinated with many mental enslaving European lies. And for many, the brainwashing is so strong that they fight against those of us who try to free their minds. Nonetheless, we must never underestimate the power of planting seeds of truth into fertile minds. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. Regardless of how intelligent people are, if it's possible to control the input into their minds, it's entirely possible to shape their beliefs and to control their behaviors. It's a fact that those who control the information that people receive are able to control what they'll believe. It's also a fact that those who programs the media contents that people watches are also able to program their minds. And it's also a fact that those who controls a people's media images literally controls their culture, because a group's identity and culture is shaped by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. Because the white society controls most of the information that black people receives, most of the media programming that black people watches, and because it also controls black people's media images, they've weaponized these combined factors against black people. Through the skillful, sustained use of disinformation propaganda campaigns, repetitive media subliminal programming, and negative media social engineering, white oppressive forces have socialized millions of black people to think and behave in ways that serves and protect the system of white supremacy. Socialized is when the dominant culture exploits their monopoly over information and media images that are fed into the minds of the oppressed population to manipulate the oppressed to think and behave in ways that are beneficial to the dominant culture. White social scientists describe this nefarious practice as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the oppressed that makes the oppressed adhere to the existing infrastructure and the authority of the dominant culture. However, the socializing of black people is the worst in history, because not only have black people been socialized to think and behave in ways that serves the interests of the white society, millions have in fact been socialized to normalize the abnormal, to accept the unacceptable, and to believe what literally insults our own intelligence. Therefore, millions of black people are incapable of realizing that there's nothing normal, nothing acceptable, nor intelligent about calling ourselves niggers, calling our women bitches, sagging our pants below our asses, getting our morals from a book written by the most immoral people we've ever encountered, and nothing normal about praying to the false god that was brutally beaten into submission within the blood-soaked minds of our ancestors by their ungodly enslavers. These noted beliefs and practices are in fact idiotic. Idiotic beliefs that millions of black people have been socialized to normalize. The truth has finally come forth, but it conditioned millions of us to fear it and to hate those who speaks it in preference for a biblical fairy tale and a silly slave syndrome myth. The African slaves of the 21st century are those who cannot unlearn the many mental enslaving lies that have been successfully embedded into our minds and learn instead the truth of our plighted condition. Because as long as our understandings remains flawed, then all of our liberating remedies that stem from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. This is why white oppressive forces have spread so much disinformation into our community. The oppressed must function based upon what is true in order to develop the proper counter strategies that are necessary to liberate ourselves. Brothers and sisters, it's time to elevate our minds above ignorant beliefs and to start functioning based upon the truth of our plighted condition. One love and peace.